Rabindranath Tagore was born on 7th May 1861. He is also known by Gurudev, Kabiguru, and Biswakabi. He was a polymath, poet, musician, and artist from the Indian subcontinent. He revived Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art with contextual modernism in the late 19th and 20th centuries. He is the author of Gitanjali verse, which is profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful. He was awarded Nobel Prize in 1913 as the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in literature. Tagore's poetic songs are viewed as spiritual and mercurial, though his elegant prose and magical poetry is largely unknown outside Bengal. He is sometimes referred to as the Bard of Bengal for his tremendous talent. His nickname was Rabi. He was born in the Jorasanko mansion in Calcutta. His father was Debendranath Tagore and mother was Sarada Devi. Tagore was raised mostly by servants. His mother had died in the early childhood and his father traveled widely. Tagore's father invited several professional Drupad musicians to stay in the house and teach Indian classic music to the children. Tagore's oldest brother, Debendranath, was a philosopher and poet. Another brother, Satyendranath, was the first Indian appointed to the elite and formerly all-European Indian civil service. Yet another brother, Jatirindranath, was a musician, composer, and playwright. His sister, Sharna Kumari, became the novelist. Jatirindranath's wife, Kadambari Devi, slightly older than Tagore, was a dear friend and powerful influence. Her abrupt suicide in 1884, soon after he got married, left him profoundly distraught for years. At the time of childhood, after his Upanayan, at the age of 11, Tagore and his father left Calcutta in February 1873 to tour India for several months, visiting his father's Shantiniketan estate and Amritsar before reaching the Himalayan hill station of Dalhousie. There, Tagore read biographies, studied history, astronomy, modern science, and Sanskrit, and examined the classical poetry of Kalidas. During his 1 month stay at Amritsar in 1873, he was greatly influenced by melodious Gurubani and Nanakbani being sung at Golden Temple, for which both father and son were regular visitors. Shilaida was one of the places where Rabindranath has spent a lot of time. Shilaida is a very historical place for Rabindranath Tagore. Debendranath Tagore, the father of Rabindranath, wanted his son to become a barrister. Tagore enrolled at a public school in Brington, East Sussex, England in 1878. He stayed there for several months at a house. He briefly read law at the University College London, but again left school, opting instead for independent study of Shakespeare plays. In 1880, he returned to Bengal without degree. After returning to Bengal, Tagore regularly published poems, stories, and novels. This had a profound impact within Bengal itself, but received little national attention. In 1883, he married 10-year-old Mrinalini Devi. His early name was Bhabatarini. They had 5 children, 2 of whom died in childhood. In 1890, Tagore began managing his vast ancestral estate in Shilaida, today a region of Bangladesh. He was joined there by his wife and children in 1898. Tagore released his Manashi poems. Among his best known works, staying there, he became familiar with Baul Lalon Shah, whose folk song greatly influenced Tagore. Tagore worked to popularize Lalon song. The period 1891 to 1895, Tagore's Sadhana period, named after one of his magazines, was his most productive. In 1901, Tagore moved to Shantiniketan to found a ashram with a marble floored prayer hall, the mandir, an experimental school, groves of trees, garden, and a library. There his wife, two of his child died. His father died 1905. In November 1913, Tagore learned he had won that year's Nobel Prize in Literature for Gitanjali, that is called Song Offering in English. He translated Gitanjali, yet wrote the preface to the English translation of Gitanjali. Between 1878 and 1932, Tagore set foot in more than 30 countries on 5 continents. In 1924, while on his way to Peru, Tagore had fallen ill, spent 2 months recuperating in the suburbs of Buenos Aires, where Victoria Ocampo took care of him. Victoria Ocampo was a beautiful and brilliant lady belonging to a rich and prominent family, interested in reading literature masterpieces in French and Latin in addition to her first language, Spanish. Victoria found in Tagore's poem and essay much needed peace of mind as she had been going through thought of suicide in a mismatched marriage. In November 1924, he learned that Tagore, on his way to Peru, had fallen seriously ill on the ship and had to break his journey in Buenos Aires. She invited him to stay as her personal guest until his complete recovery. Tagore was deeply touched by the devotion and wrote a letter expressing appreciation of her loving care. He remembered her in poems even during the last hours of his life. On July 14, 1930, Albert Einstein, a famous scientist, welcomed Rabindranath Tagore into his home. On the outskirts of Berlin, Rabindranath was a musician and a Nobel laureate. The two proceeded to one of the most stimulating, intellectually riveting conversations in history, exploring the age-old friction between science and religion. He wrote many dramas, short stories, novels, poetry, songs that is called Rabindra Sangit, and many artwork as well. Rabindranath Tagore has performed the little role in Valmiki Pratibha with his niece Indira Devi as the goddess Lakshmi. He wrote Golpogusso short story book. He has composed around 2230 songs to his credit. His songs are well known as Rabindra Sangit. At 60, Tagore took up drawing and painting. He completed successful exhibition of his many works. He was a person of versatile talent. Tagore despised rude classroom schooling. In the parrot's training, a bird is caged and force-fed textbook pages. Tagore, visiting Santa Barbara in 1970, conceived a new type of university. He sought to make Shantiniketan the connecting thread between India and the rest of the world, and a world center for the study of humanity somewhere beyond the limits of nation and geography. The school, which he named Vishwabharati, had its foundation stone laid on 24 December 1918 and was inaugurated precisely 3 years later on 1921. Kabiguru Rabindranath Tagore passed away on the day of August 7 in the year of 1941. Best known as a poet, story writer, song composer, playwright, essayist, and painter, Rabindranath made great contribution to Indian literature, music, as well as art. The author poet received Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913, becoming the first Indian as well non-European to be honored with the award. Not just a great storyteller, Rabindranath Tagore gifted India its national anthem Jana Gana Mana and also Bangladesh its national anthem Amar Sonar Bangla Ami Tomaye Bhalobashi.